Hello and welcome back to the Python tutorials. Today you will write your first Python program and learn something about numbers. Let's dig right into it. As you can see, we are back in the Programm IDE. As I explained last video, here I created a new project. You click on File and New Project. And this is just a pure Python project. And here, the important thing, if you create a new project, you can set your Python interpreter. Here, you just use the Python exe we installed in the first video. As an interpreter, I'm using Anaconda, like I mentioned last video. And it will create a virtual environment where you set up your Python, and in there you can write your Python files. What a virtual environment is, I will explain you later on, but now it's just create this project, and in there, let's create it in a new window, so we can just see what is happening. And PyCharm will create the virtual environment for us, where we can create our Python files and run it with our new Python interpreter. So, if you finally have created your new project, the directory should look like this, the name of your project, and in there it should be a main py file. The ending py is for Python, and in there you have an example code. You can just run it, and you will see it writes hi PyCharm. At this you don't need to understand this code, I will just remove it, and we write our first program ourselves. Here, everyone's first program is like hello world, but we want to start with numbers, and strings should be in the next video, so we start with writing a number. Print is an implemented Python function where just the thing in the brackets of this function will be written to the terminal over there. So we say print 1, and if we run it, you can click here, run it, and just make sure your main file is selected. Just run it, and it will print us the number 1. Now you just want to think, what is this run button doing in the back end? And it's nothing else like we have a terminal over there, we look at the directory, what files are in there. And here you see our main py file is there. So if we run, click on the run button, it's just the same as entering in the command line python main.py. And this command will execute the file for us. And here you see, yes, the file is executed and the 1 is printed out. And it's just a bit simple for us, just run the button and we don't need to enter the command. Yeah, so let's have a look at numbers in general. What are numbers? As you see, we have a 2, for example, it's just a number. If we print the number out, we will see it like this, and it prints us the 2. So we can add another number and just calculate with them, and it will give us a 4. Everything you know from some basic calculators are possible in here, even much more. You can do minors, you can multiply each other, and of course you can do some simple divisions. Here, now you should mention it writes a 1.0. So in general, we add here 2 numbers without a decimal place. So these are some integers. We can even print the type of it. If we write print, and in the brackets we put the type function of 2, for example, we see the type of this number. So if you enter this, you see the class is an integer. But if we print the type of our division, what's this? Let's have a look at it. It's a float. Because if you divide something, it's getting a float. Because, for example, if you divide 1 by 3, it isn't a whole number. Yes, it's cut out, and you need decimal signs in the end to see how the number is generally stored. And the cool thing about Python is we don't need to declare the different types of numbers, like integers, floats, or some complex numbers. We not just need to, we can just calculate with them. We can even, for example, if we get rid of this, we can even print 1.5, 2 times of this, and just can, and it's 3.0. So in other programming languages, the left number, the 1.5, is a float, and the right number is an integer. And you can't just calculate between two numbers, you need to cast them. But Python is just that simple. We don't need a semicolon at the end. We don't need to cast the numbers. We can just calculate. And this is so much simpler than other languages, which hopefully will make you thinking about Python like, wow, that's the best language and I want to learn more about it. So, I want to show you some more additional calculations. You can do 8 and, for example, 8 and do 2 of this side. So you exponentiate the 8, like, yeah, it's 8 times 8, it's 64. If you have, for example, 9 and use the percent sign, that's the modulo. That's the modulo. So you can divide the 8 by 2 for a full division, and you get a remaining of 1. And this operator will just give us the remaining, what we can't divide in a whole number. If you want now how many times we can divide it in general, like you can divide it 4 times by 2, the 8 can be divided 4 times by 2 and the remaining is 1. So if you want to see the opposite of it, you can just add here 2 slashes and you see, oh, it's a 4. Yeah, that's the opposite. And in general, you can do much more complexer calculations like 8 plus 4, 2 times of 4, and it's like in math classes from earlier, it's like a dot before line. It's we're calculating 4 times 2 is 8 plus 8 is 16. Yeah, and we can even do it furthermore with some additional brackets, and it's like the brackets will be calculated for the other signs. Like now it's 8 plus 4 is 12, 2 times of this is 24. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the most important thing you should learn in this series is you can just use every calculation operator you know from school or from other math from math courses. You can use the root, but this is some additional. We need to import a library, and I think this is a bit too much for the first part of your Python course. So we just have now a look at the simple operators, and you should know that you don't need to declare the numbers. Python will do it by itself. So if we use a variable, which we'll learn later, you don't need to declare it, you don't need the data type, you can just calculate. And I think this is such a good thing about Python, and I hope this will make you stay with Python and want to learn more about it. Thank you for your attention.